When diplomacy captain Elena Rodriguez pressed her face against the small window of the rescue shuttle as it approached the abandoned Corthic facility. The massive structure floated silently in space, its dark metal hull scarred by what looked like hasty evacuation attempts. For 3 months, Earth's diplomatic corps had been searching for their missing personnel who had vanished during peace negotiations with the Corthic Empire. Today, they might finally have answers. "Captain, we're detecting no life signs aboard the facility," reported Sergeant Davis from the pilot's seat. His voice carried the tension they all felt. "But there are definitely human biosignatures in the database logs." Elena's stomach tightened. She had volunteered to lead this rescue mission because her younger brother Miguel had been among the missing diplomats. The Corthic had claimed they knew nothing about human prisoners, insisting that all diplomatic personnel had been safely returned to Earth space. But the families of 12 missing humans refused to accept that lie. The shuttle docked with a soft thud against the alien station's hull. Elena checked her weapon one final time before activating the airlock. As the door slid open, stale air rushed out, carrying a smell that made her stomach turn. It was the unmistakable odor of death and decay. "Stay alert," she whispered to her team. "We don't know what we're walking into." The first chamber they entered was clearly designed for prisoners. Dozens of small cells lined the walls, each one barely large enough for a human to lie down. The metal floors were stained with something dark that Elena preferred not to identify, but it was the scratches on the walls that made her heart race. Human fingernails had carved desperate messages into the alien metal. "Elena, help us," she read aloud, recognizing her brother's handwriting. Her hands began to shake. Dr. Sarah Kim, the team's xenobiologist, was scanning the cells with her medical equipment. "Captain, I'm detecting human DNA throughout this facility. Recent samples within the last month." She paused, checking her readings again. "But I'm also detecting something else. Chemical residue consistent with mass execution protocols." Elena felt her blood run cold. "Explain." "The Corthic use a neural toxin for executions. It's designed to cause maximum pain before death. The residue indicates it was used extensively in this facility." Dr. Kim's professional composure cracked slightly. "Captain, I don't think we're going to find survivors." They moved deeper into the facility, each chamber revealing more evidence of systematic torture and murder. The Corthic had kept detailed records of their prisoners, documenting each human's physical and psychological deterioration with scientific precision. Elena forced herself to read the reports, knowing that understanding the full scope of the crime was essential. In the facility's central command room, they found the most damning evidence. Security recordings showed the final days of the human prisoners. Elena watched in horror as her brother and 11 other diplomats were systematically executed after being tortured for information about Earth's military capabilities. The Corthic had violated every principle of civilized warfare, treating diplomatic personnel as enemy combatants to be broken and killed. "Captain," Sergeant Davis called from across the room. "We've got movement in the lower levels. One heat signature, human-sized." Elena's heart leaped with hope as they rushed to the facility's detention levels. In the deepest, darkest cell, they found Lieutenant Jake Morrison, barely alive and delirious with fever. He had been a security officer assigned to the diplomatic mission, and somehow, he had survived. "Jake, can you hear me?" Elena knelt beside the skeletal figure, checking his pulse. "We're here to get you out." Morrison's eyes focused slowly on her face. "Captain Rodriguez, Elena?" His voice was barely a whisper. They're all dead. Miguel, Ambassador Chen, all of them. The Corthic, they killed them all." As Dr. Kim worked to stabilize Morrison for transport, he continued to speak in broken sentences. "They wanted to know about Earth's defenses, about our military capabilities. When the diplomats couldn't answer, the Corthic killed them one by one." He grabbed Elena's arm with surprising strength. "They said humans were weak, said we were cowards who would never fight back." Elena helped carry Morrison to the shuttle, her mind racing with the implications of what they had discovered. The Corthic Empire had committed genocide against Earth's diplomatic personnel, violating every law of war and interspecies conduct. This was not just a political incident that could be resolved through negotiation. This was a declaration of war against humanity itself. During the flight back to Earth, Elena transmitted their findings to Admiral Marcus Chen at Earth Defense Command. The Admiral's face appeared on the shuttle's communication screen, his expression growing darker with each detail of Elena's report. 12 diplomats, murdered in cold blood. Admiral Chen said slowly. and they documented the entire thing as if it were a scientific experiment. Sir, there's more, Elena continued. According to Morrison, the Korthik believe humans are inherently weak. They see our preference for diplomacy as cowardice. They think we'll never retaliate for fear of casualties. Admiral Chen was quiet for a long moment. They're about to learn how wrong they are. Captain Rodriguez, I want you to present your findings to the Global Defense Council immediately. This evidence changes everything. 3 days later, Elena stood before the assembled leaders of Earth's nations in the Global Defense Council chambers. The room was packed with representatives from every major power, their faces grim as she presented the evidence from the Korthik facility. The security recordings played on massive screens, showing the systematic torture and execution of Earth's diplomatic personnel. The Korthik Empire has crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed, Elena concluded. They have murdered unarmed diplomats, violated every principle of civilized contact, and done so with the explicit belief that humanity is too weak to respond. The Japanese representative raised his hand. Captain Rodriguez, what do you recommend? Elena looked around the room at the faces of Earth's leaders. I recommend we show them exactly how wrong they are about human weakness. Total war, complete destruction of their military capabilities, and war crimes trials for every Korthik officer involved in these murders. The vote was unanimous. Admiral Chen addressed the assembled council members. Ladies and gentlemen, for the past 50 years, humanity has maintained a policy of peaceful exploration and diplomatic contact with alien species. We have hidden our true military capabilities, preferring to present ourselves as explorers and scientists rather than warriors. He paused, his voice hardening. That policy ends today. In the weeks that followed, Earth's true military strength began to emerge from hidden facilities across the solar system. The Korthik had only seen humanity's diplomatic vessels and trade ships. They had no idea that Earth maintained the largest military force in the galaxy, hidden in deep space installations and disguised as mining operations. General Harrison Webb, Earth's chief military strategist, had been planning for this moment for decades. The Korthik Empire controls 47 star systems. He briefed the assembled military commanders. They have approximately 3,000 warships and believe themselves to be the dominant military force in this sector of the galaxy. He activated a holographic display showing Earth's hidden military assets. What they don't know is that humanity has been preparing for large-scale interstellar warfare. Since first contact, we have maintained a fleet of 8,000 vessels, equipped with weapons and technology that make their ships look like ancient relics. Lieutenant Morrison, now recovered enough to attend the briefings, spoke up from his wheelchair. General, the Korthik interrogated our diplomats specifically about Earth's military capabilities. They were convinced we were hiding something, but they had no idea of the scale. That's exactly what we wanted them to think. General Webb replied. Our diplomatic policy has been a strategic deception for 50 years. We appeared weak and peaceful while secretly building the most advanced military force in galactic history. Elena looked around the room at the assembled military leaders. How long until we're ready to strike? Admiral Chen checked his tactical display. Our fleets are already moving into position. The Korthik Empire will face the full might of human military power within 72 hours. As Elena left the briefing room, she thought about her brother Miguel and the other murdered diplomats. The Korthik had killed them believing that humanity would never seek justice. They had mistaken humanity's preference for peace as an inability to wage war. They were about to learn the difference between choosing not to fight and being unable to fight. The Korthik Empire had awakened something in humanity that had been sleeping for generations. They had crossed a line that transformed Earth from a peaceful explorer into an avenging force that would reshape the galaxy. In the depths of space, human warships that had been hidden for decades powered up their weapons systems and set course for Korthik territory. The age of human diplomacy was ending. The age of human dominance was about to begin. The Korthik Empire had killed 12 diplomats. In response, humanity would show them what total war really meant. Humanity unleashed. Commander Vextar of the Korthik Empire was reviewing troop deployments when the first alarms began screaming throughout his flagship. The massive dreadnought shuddered under impact from weapons that should not have existed. Through the bridge windows, he watched in disbelief as human warships materialized from nowhere, their sleek forms cutting through space with impossible speed. How many ships? He barked at his sensor officer, his forearms gripping the command rail as another blast rocked the vessel. I cannot get an accurate count, Commander. The officer stammered. They appear and disappear faster than our sensors can track. At least 200 vessels, possibly more. Vexstar's yellow eyes narrowed. This was impossible. Human ships were supposed to be simple exploration vessels with basic defensive capabilities. The Empire's intelligence reports had consistently described humanity as a peaceful species with limited military technology. Yet the weapons currently tearing through his fleet's shields were more advanced than anything the Korthik possessed. On the bridge of the human flagship Retribution, Admiral Chen watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. How are our stealth systems performing? Captain Rodriguez, Elena, now serving as his tactical coordinator, monitored the engagement through her command interface. The Korthik can't predict our movement patterns, sir. Their weapons systems are designed for traditional fleet engagements. They've never faced adaptive stealth technology. The human fleet had approached the primary Korthik military installation, using quantum stealth drives, rendering them completely invisible until the moment of attack. When they finally revealed themselves, it was with overwhelming firepower that the alien empire could never have anticipated. Their shield technology is at least 70 years behind ours, reported Dr. Kim from the science station. Our weapons are reconfiguring in real time to penetrate their defenses. They literally cannot adapt fast enough to counter our assault. Admiral Chen nodded. Phase 2. Target their communication arrays and command structures. I want every Korthik commander in this system to witness what happens. When you murder human diplomats, the human warships moved with precision that seemed almost choreographed. Each vessel knew its role. Each weapon struck its intended target. The Korthik fleet, despite outnumbering the human force 3-1, found itself helpless against technology they could not comprehend or counter. Commander Vexstar watched as his escort vessels were systematically disabled. Human ships would appear, strike with surgical precision, and vanish before his gunners could return fire. Get me Supreme Commander Zorak, he ordered. Alert him that the humans possess military capabilities far beyond our intelligence estimates. The communication channel crackled with interference. Commander, we cannot establish contact with the Supreme Commander. The humans have jammed all military frequencies across 7 star systems. Vexstar felt a chill of fear run through his alien physiology. In 300 years of military service, he had never encountered an enemy capable of such tactical superiority. The Korthik Empire had conquered dozens of species through overwhelming force and technological superiority. Now they faced an opponent who made them look primitive. Sir, incoming transmission from the human fleet. His communications officer announced. Admiral Chen's image appeared on the main screen, his expression cold and unforgiving. Commander Vexstar of the Korthik Empire, this is Admiral Marcus Chen of Earth Defense Command. You are hereby ordered to surrender your vessel and submit to war crimes proceedings. Vexstar straightened, trying to maintain his dignity despite the desperate situation. Admiral Chen, the Korthik Empire does not surrender to inferior species. You may have achieved surprise, but you cannot stand against our full military might. Commander, Admiral Chen replied calmly, you seem to be operating under several misconceptions. First, this is not a surprise attack. This is the opening phase of a systematic campaign to destroy your empire's military capabilities. Second, what you see before you represents less than 5% of Earth's total military force. Vexstar's blood ran cold. If this devastating attack represented only a fraction of human military power, then the Korthik Empire faced extinction. Third, Admiral Chen continued, your empire made a critical error when it tortured and murdered 12 human diplomats. You believed humanity was weak because we preferred diplomacy to warfare. You confused restraint with inability. The human Admiral gestured, and tactical displays showed the locations of every major Korthik military installation across their 47-star empire. As we speak, human fleets are engaging your forces in 31-star systems simultaneously. Your military will be completely destroyed within 72 hours. On his tactical display, Vexstar watched in horror as red indicators showed Korthik defeats across the empire. Human forces were striking everywhere at once, using technology and tactics that rendered traditional military doctrine obsolete. General Webb's strategic planning had been flawless, while the Korthik Empire maintained static defenses and predictable fleet deployments. Human forces used quantum tunneling technology to appear anywhere in the galaxy instantaneously. They struck military targets while avoiding civilian populations, demonstrating both superior capability and moral restraint that the Korthik lacked. Your terms, Vexstar asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Unconditional surrender of all military forces, Admiral Chen replied. Complete disarmament of your empire, and most importantly, every Korthik officer involved in the murder of human diplomats will stand trial for war crimes. Dr. Sarah Kim had spent weeks preparing for this moment. Her investigation of the alien prison facility had identified 47 Korthik officers, directly responsible for the torture and execution of human diplomats. Using advanced forensic technology, she had built an airtight case against each individual involved. Commander Vexstar, Dr. Kim's voice joined the communication. You personally oversaw the interrogation of Ambassador Chen. You watched as he was tortured for information he did not possess. You gave the order for his execution when he could not provide intelligence about Earth's military capabilities. Vexstar's alien features contorted with what might have been shame or fear. The prisoners were treated according to military necessity. They possessed information vital to imperial security. They were diplomats, Elena interrupted, her voice filled with controlled fury. Unarmed civilian representatives protected by every law of interspecies conduct. You tortured them for entertainment and killed them to send a message about Korthik power. Lieutenant Morrison, now fully recovered and serving as a witness coordinator, had provided detailed testimony about each war crime. His survival had given humanity the evidence needed to justify their total war against the Korthik Empire. Commander, Admiral Chen said, you have 10 minutes to order the surrender of all Korthik military forces. If you refuse, we will continue our systematic destruction of your empire's military capabilities. The next few minutes passed in tense silence. Vexstar consulted with his remaining officers, but the tactical situation was hopeless. Human forces had demonstrated technological superiority that made resistance futile. More importantly, they had shown strategic thinking that suggested this campaign had been planned for decades. Admiral Chen, Vexstar finally spoke. The Korthik Empire surrenders. The formal surrender ceremony took place aboard the human flagship 3 days later. Representatives from 47 Korthik star systems signed documents that dissolved their military forces and established war crimes tribunals for those responsible for murdering human diplomats. Elena stood beside Admiral Chen as they watched the alien commanders sign their surrender. The process was being broadcast across the galaxy, ensuring that every species would understand the consequences of crossing humanity's moral boundaries. Captain Rodriguez, Admiral Chen said quietly, your brother and his colleagues have been avenged. Justice has been served. Elena nodded, thinking about Miguel and the other murdered diplomats. Sir, what happens to the Korthik Empire now? They will rebuild as a peaceful civilization under human oversight, the Admiral replied. Their military ambitions are ended, but their people will be allowed to prosper if they choose cooperation over conquest. Dr. Kim approached with her final report on the war crimes proceedings. Admiral, we have confirmed evidence against 47 Korthik officers. The trials will begin next month on Earth, with full galactic observation. The transformation of the Korthik Empire sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. Other alien civilizations who had viewed humanity as a minor, peaceful species suddenly realized they faced a military superpower that had been hiding its true strength for generations. General Webb briefed the Global Defense Council on the campaign's success. Total Korthik military casualties, approximately 2 million. Human military casualties, 0. We achieved complete military victory while maintaining our moral principles. Regarding civilian populations, the General activated a galactic map showing the new balance of power. 12 species have already requested formal alliance treaties with Earth. They understand that humanity offers both protection and partnership to those who respect interspecies law. Elena looked at the map, seeing how quickly the galaxy had changed. Humanity had emerged from hiding not as conquerors, but as guardians of justice and civilization. The Korthik Empire's atrocities had forced Earth to reveal its true power, but humanity had used that power responsibly. Lieutenant Morrison, now promoted to captain, addressed the assembled council. The Korthik made a fundamental error in judgment. They believed that a species' preference for peace indicated weakness. They learned that humanity's greatest strength lies not in our weapons, but in our principles. As the council session ended, Elena reflected on the transformation that had occurred. 12 murdered diplomats had led to the emergence of humanity as the galaxy's dominant military power. The Korthik Empire's cruelty had awakened a sleeping giant that would reshape interstellar civilization. The age of human diplomacy had ended, not in failure, but in the establishment of justice. Humanity had shown the galaxy that peace was not weakness, but choice, and when that choice was taken away through atrocity and murder, humanity possessed both the will and the capability to ensure that justice prevailed. The Korthic Empire was finished. The age of human galactic leadership had begun.